she gets it. What is the threat level? Will John go to jail looking for an escape? And gets it. Ooh, he gets it exactly. And this roll is important. This could demote 3 players. Hello everyone, we have a replay. And not only is it a replay from probably the best Blockminers player in the world, and not only is it a replay of them beating in the game on hard mode, but it is a replay of the best Blockminers player in the world beating the game on hard mode, playing as all 5 characters. Let's see it. Day 1. Gary decides to go to the office. John decides to also go to office, lucky encounter card with end of time frame on the first day. Nivek sitting on a rough encounter card, but goes to basement anyway. Adriana naturally goes to office, picks up both her infiltrates. Satoru, as usual, manages to draw the grandma. Satoru is like a grandma magnet. Easy encounter card for everyone else, pretty hard for Satoru actually. Workday on day 1, time for Gary to play a card. Gary is sitting on Landlord's Automaton, an encounter card you are actually pretty happy to see. Ends up playing overtime to draw more cards. It's time for John to play his first office card. Starts the day with shoulder surfing, a clever move. That is a good reveal with blue screen. Adriana gets to draw the basement card. Picks up a reboot. A snap reboot, getting rid of block reward, looking for browse, gets a transfer instead. Rough draw for Nivek. Adriana decides to play her overtime, getting a second shoulder surfing and an endorse, which might come in handy later this workday. If not, it can be rebooted for more office cards. Draws the intercepted delivery, which deletes the top card of your office deck or basement deck. Satoru is sitting on block reward, transfer and overclock. Decides to start with the block reward and picks up the revealed blue screen. Gary would like to play cards, but would also like to delete cards with Landlord's Automaton. Gary opts to play her shoulder surfing to reveal another encounter card. Threat to delete an installed virus is safe, as no viruses are installed yet. Nivek gets to draw and picks up the browser dark web that Nivek was looking for. John decides to do bare minimum work first, hoping to get a buff later today to be able to infiltrate. Nivek snap plays browse, and we have the first browse of this replay. Not any obvious picks for Nivek, it seems like. The backdoor is good. Could also consider botnet here and Shamoon. Decides to go for the +3 infiltrate into all players virus. Adriana is going to play the shoulder surfing, reveals a wall knocking, and allows John to draw a browse the dark web. Satoru is of course forced to play the blue screen card. Gary decides to also play the bare minimum work instead of deleting it. And using the second block created by Satoru, John goes for the second browse of the game. John finds the infiltrating bonus he is looking for. He will not be able to play it today, but decides to pick it. Nivek does not want to transfer and has to play his police interrogation. We are looking for a 6 or higher on this roll. And he does not get it, which means that someone gets promoted. Unfortunate. Decides to promote Satoru Shinak. But the problem is immediately solved by Adriana playing endorse, which lets her promote an unemployed player to employed, given that she herself is employed or higher, which she currently is. Satoru is now in a conundrum. Is it correct to already overclock a block reward? It seems Satoru goes for it to deck thin his deck as quickly as possible and generate more blocks. Satoru decides to not pick the wall knockings as that would demote him, and instead picks this safe encounter card. Adriana plays the prioritize and draws her infiltrate. Gary does not delete a card. John attempts the infiltrate without bonuses. For this, he needs to roll an 8 or higher. And unfortunately does not. Nivek decides to fold his transfer. Adriana does not reboot her infiltrates and instead play them. She needs a 4 or higher to promote to manager. Oh, second thoughts. No, plays the threat 3 encounter card first, as threat is currently at 2. Well spotted. Security updates is thrown down as it does nothing. Gary attempts her infiltrate, draws random screening, decent encounter draw, looking at a 6 or higher for a promote, and she gets it, making Gary the first manager of the game. Wall knockings does nothing on John as he has not gained any blocks. Nivek is out of cards and the turn passes to Adriana. Adriana plays her infiltrate, draws a "you are demoted at mind 11", which is not nice for Adriana. She needs to roll a 9 or higher to get out of that encounter card. A 4 or higher to become manager. 4 exactly. Only Adriana and Nivek would become manager with a 4 at this point. Luckily, it was Adriana rolling. She becomes the second manager of the game. It's time for Satoru's nemesis, Grandma, 7 or higher. He gets it exactly. Gary tries to convince the landlord they do not need to pay money. She does so successfully. The landlord goes away. John places endorse. It does nothing. It is simply a stall for end of time frame. Adriana now gets to play her last card before end of time frame is played, at which point all dark web cards must be discarded. She gets a demote, which is rough. Hopefully she gets this infiltrate. 4 is not enough. 4 plus 6 is 10. She needed 13 or higher. Satoru plays his last card. Also decides to not transfer 2 blocks as it's not considered worth it. Gary deciding whether she wants to delete her endorse or not. Gary decides to keep her endorse by playing it. Now end of time frame is played. Netting 5 money in total. And everyone now has to discard their dark web cards. Adriana's reboot goes away. The threat 3 is a guaranteed demote, as threat level is now at 5, I think. First play intercepted delivery, and YOLO deletes from her basement deck, gets rid of a browse the dark web. Gary plays random screening, needs to roll a 6 or higher for it to do nothing. That is now a guarantee, and she made it. Now the threat 3 triggers, making Adriana employed again. Gary plays her last encounter card, which does nothing. Adriana now has to roll a 9 or higher or become unemployed. That is not a 9 or higher, and a rare sight to see Adriana with the lowest infiltration level. That ends the first day. There is enough money to pay rent, and on the second day, John will go first. There is money for almost 3 days still at this point, so money is currently not a problem. John checking the encounter cards to decide where to go. On the first day, John and Nivek got to browse, so both of their basement decks are stacked, as in the first basement card is a good card. For John, it was something that buffed infiltrate, and for Nivek, it was a infiltration virus. John decides to keep his basement deck stacked and goes back to the office. Nivek snap clicks the basement and gets both a browse and his virus. Adriana has both her infiltrates in her discard pile, but she will never get to them unless she draws office cards, so she decides to draw from the office deck anyway. Satoru decides to go office, likely to escape his encounter card, which will go off once Nivek installs the virus. Gary goes back to office. As Gary is a manager, she may reboot a card if she wants to draw another. Decides to not. John, pondering his first move, decides to escape his encounter card as it might demote Nivek later. Nivek goes for his second browse, paying a block, and has a second virus available. Camera-free Airway also draws cards, which is good for Nivek. Decides to go for the virus as Nivek's high mind will make it easy for him to install. Adriana does not currently make any money if she plays her bare minimum work, as she is unemployed and thus cannot make money. Plays prioritize, hoping to draw an infiltrate, does not. But she does get an endorse that will make installing the virus easier for Nivek. Satoru also has his endorse. Oh, and because Satoru has his endorse, Adriana becomes employed and her bare minimum work will give her money today. Gary believes there is no more ways to get rid of blocks today and thus escapes her encounter card that requires you to have no blocks for it to crash. If that card was played now, it would remove 1 block and demote Gary. If no blocks were available, it would not demote Gary as it would crash on -1 block. Having gotten rid of his encounter card, John now decides to overtime, picks up a hustler. Nivek attempts the mind a level check, needs a 5 or higher and gets it, removing the encounter card. Adriana, who is now employed, does get money from her bare minimum work. However, as Nivek is running out of cards, she decides to play her buff now to help Nivek install the virus. Satoru gets rid of the encounter card that would demote him once the virus is installed. Gary has a +1 from her own buff. That is the first rent raised. As we are playing on hard mode, there are 2 rent raised in the deck. With a double 6, there is no need to count. Gary, of course, has a 13 or higher and becomes the first director of the game. Looking at Nivek's discard pile to figure out what he's likely to draw, would he draw another basement card? As John is considering who should draw a card from shoulder surfing. Possibly looking for dig up dirt in the basement deck, as that does give an infiltration bonus, seeing as John has both of his infiltrates in his hand. Goes for shoulder surfing. And the second rent raised is next to the first rent raise, causing a double rent raise on the second day. That is rough. The rent is now already at 7. The decision is that Nivek gets to draw a basement card. Nivek does pick up the dig up dirt, which would buff infiltrating, maybe allowing John to also get all the way to director on the second day. It is Nivek's turn. Although dig up dirt would give +2 infiltration, if the virus check succeeds, it would give +3 infiltration. And with that roll, we don't need to do math. The virus is absolutely installed. As Adriana's bare minimum work now has an effect, she decides to play it, and with the rent at 7 already, more money is needed. With the virus installed with +3 infiltrate, Satoru now only needs to roll a 6 or higher to become a manager. He draws an encounter card which for him does nothing, which is good news. That is not a 6 or higher. Satoru is 1 off to be promoted. No, he is not 1 off to be promoted, because he played the convincing presentation. Yes, so he had +1 from convincing presentation, and then +3 from the virus, which does put Satoru at manager. Satoru actually has a higher infiltration level than Adriana, which is extremely rare. Let's see if Gary makes it all the way to partner. That will probably not be enough. Well, Gary is at least a director, which is great news, as she gets to browse 1 during end of day. Maybe this time John can also join the managers. We're playing the Hustler first. To remove 1/1 and browse for 2. What do we see? Good cards, but not necessarily so good for John. The rent did raise, so more ways to earn money might be a good play here. Does decide to pick up Snitches Get Riches. It's time for Nivek to play his infiltration bonus. He is now with his virus, giving everyone +5 to their rolls today. Does Adriana want to delete something, or does she want to escape it? She decides to escape the delete card and not delete anything. Satoru plays his encounter card, which does nothing. Adriana is looking for a 6 or higher here to not get demoted. But she does not get it, and therefore she will not get to browse at the end of the first day. She is now demoted to manager. It is now the John show, as John is the only one with cards left. Starts with prioritize. Draws his Snitches Get Riches. Tries to infiltrate. Now has a +6 on this roll, with the virus and dig up dirt and convincing presentation. So a snake eyes is good enough to be promoted, which is lucky for John, as he rolled only a 3. But what is the threat level? Will John go to jail? The threat level is 3, meaning we are just fine. Is 6 enough? I believe it is enough. Yes. So John gets to director. And his first play as a director... Oh! No, we are fine. He has not played a basement card. And his first play as a director is to go to the mandatory meeting and then demote Adriana state down to unemployed. Adriana is now the only player which is unemployed. Everyone else is employed or higher. And notably Satoru is at manager. This is a very rare board state. I don't know if this is intentional part of the plan, but there is more than enough money to pay rent on the second day. And we are now going to start the third day. On this third day, Nivek has a stacked office deck with a virus on top. John still has a stacked basement deck, and no other browsers have been made. Nivek does go to the office to pick up his Stuxnet and a hacking buff for himself, which is great. Adriana once again goes to office, trying to make it out of unemployed and back into employment. Satoru heads back into the basement, picks up both an infiltration bonus and a browse. Gary goes into the office again and also picks up an endorse to buff hacking. Looking for an escape, and gets it, as the share issuance would demote him to unemployed and lose money, as he is a director. Nivek puts Adriana back in action and gives himself a hacking bonus. Adriana immediately works overtime, gets to shuffle her discard pile and draw again. The encounter card should be fine. Satoru decides to increase the infiltration bonus to everyone immediately. Gives the encounter card to Nivek. With more encounter cards, Nivek can wait more turns before the virus is installed, thus receiving more hacking bonuses. They replace her hacking bonus right away. John decides to demote Nivek with Snitches Get Riches before playing his Endorse, a play which is made possible because Satoru distracted his encounter card to Nivek, which gives them more time to promote and demote for money. Nivek plays an encounter card that does nothing to stall. At this point, I do not believe a player is holding more than 2 encounter cards, so the Drone Flying Fly would be fine to play. Adriana plays Shoulder Surfing, revealing Snitching Coworker, which is completely fine for some players, as it demotes everyone at a lower infiltration level than you. Really scary on John right now, as he has the highest infiltration level, but completely fine on Nivek, as no one has a lower infiltration level than him. The choice is that John gets to draw the basement card, thus picking up his stacked fake access card printer with +4 infiltrating to all players. It is Satoru's turn. Plays Browse, uses the block, probably as there are no revealed encounter cards. Sees the vertical privilege escalation, which allows you to play a card another player has played today again. Usually more powerful when there are more players, as you have more options to pick from. Seems to go for the rerouting. Interesting pick, I would not have guessed. Rerouting is a great office card. You and another player get to draw an office card, and you get to escape one. Usually not something you want Satoru to be doing, but there is probably a plan here somewhere. Gary works overtime, gets shoulder surfing and bare minimum work. Does not pick the Snitching Coworker, as that would risk demoting both Adriana and Nivek. John plays his infiltration bonus, which is a play made possible as Nivek has a second encounter card to stall with before playing his virus. The infiltration bonus is now available for Adriana if she chooses to infiltrate, which she does. It is easy for Adriana to make the voice check on Snitching Coworker, and as John still has his Endorse, he could put Nivek at employed before she plays her encounter card. Let's first see the check. This is a voice 19 we just saw. Adriana does pick the Snitching Coworker, hoping that her voice 6 is going to help her succeed that check. Plays the block reward and draws blind, gets a severance package, which maybe for the first time ever is going to trigger on Satoru. Satoru is almost never above employed. There is a threat 4 in Gary's hand. Ordering might become important here, as we do not want that threat 4 card to trigger. It would demote all players. Deciding whether to draw or doing something else first. Starts with bare minimum work to just add 1 money. The Endorse is now played, bringing the total hacking bonus up to +6. The virus is a voice 14, so 2 or higher means the card is installed. With a 7, the Stuxnet is now installed. Stuxnet, of course, allows players to draw 1 extra card during the start of day phase, and that extra card is any card from the respective discard pile of the deck they chose. Erina goes for her second. Ooh, this is a problem. The threat level is currently 2, and Satoru has to play a encounter card when it's his turn. Adriana becomes a director, but what is going to happen now? Because now Satoru has to play his share issuance. It triggers. It's so weird to see this card trigger on Satoru. I've never seen that before. But okay, 2 money. But now the issue is, now the threat level is 3. So 1 threat 4 card is safe to play here, and they have to decide if it is the man on the bus or the erratic exchange. There is no transfer, so erratic exchange does make it game over. Oh, Adriana has a 1 in 3 to draw her escape here. If she draws her escape, she can escape her threat 4. She gets the 1 in 3. Gary can now escape her threat 4 card. Adriana can play her threat 4 card, and none of them trigger. John, of course, escapes his encounter card. Yes, confirming that threat level is 3. The erratic exchange does not trigger, as that would have been game over. And Gary escapes her threat 4 card, which would have demoted all players. That 1 in 3 was very important to get. John plays his bare minimum work and adds 1 money. Adriana does the same and adds another money. Gary plays her encounter card that does nothing. And this roll is important. This could demote 3 players, 4 or higher, Oh, that's close. All right, but it does not trigger. Otherwise, both Gary and Nivik and Satoru would have been demoted. Gary folds her reveal. I believe that is a good play. There's no reason to go through more encounter cards right now. A 6 or higher to not get demoted for Adriana. That is a 6 or higher. The note on the door is escaped. And finally, the drawn flyby, which does nothing. Wow, that was close and also very well executed. Now we are heading into the third day and Stuxnet is installed. Both Adriana and John are directors and may choose to browse one during the end of day phase. Those cards do end up on the top of your decks, so they would get it during this day. Does Adriana want a resistance botnet? She decides to not take the resistance botnet. What about John? He also gets to browse one. Sees a privilege to escape 2. Decides to keep the privilege. Adriana has her infiltrates. Does she have both infiltrates? Yes, she has both infiltrates in her discard pile and the overtime. I guess now the choice is if Adriana wants to pick the infiltrates or the overtime card to draw more, hoping to draw the infiltrates as the discard pile shuffles. Adriana picks up her overtime, hoping to draw the other infiltrates. Time for Satoru to pick. Satoru goes basement. Gary also gets her dig up dirt. Wait, we are seeing a lot of infiltration bonuses here. John goes to basement also and can pick his +4 infiltrate. This might be the day where the players win actually. Is there... Yes, Nivik can also pick his dig up dirt and he also has his overclock in hand. This is a lot of infiltration bonuses, but it all hinges on whether Adriana gets both her infiltrates when she draws. Oh, wait. Yes, Adriana is a manager and decides to reboot one and picks up one of her infiltrates. Let's see how much bonus the other players will be able to give during the day. I'm gonna get pen and paper for this. We need to keep track on how much this is. Oh, John as a manager reboots and gets his +2 infiltrate as well. Okay. Let's see. Overtime. No? Yes. Are we drawing the infiltrate? The second infiltrate is actually on top and Adriana has both of her infiltrates. The first +2 bonus is played by Satoru. The encounter card is given to Adriana so that Adriana has more time to wait for bonuses. Another +2 from Gary. More encounter cards distracted to Adriana. John plays the fake access card printer, putting us now at +8 infiltrating for all players. And Nivik plays his dig up dirt. Adriana is holding so many cards. Okay, what's the play now? The play is shoulder surfing. What is it this player is looking for? There is some level here that I'm not understanding. We'll see who gets to draw a basement card. Satoru gets to draw a basement card. Satoru reboots. Overclock, of course, to overclock his dig up dirt to give even more infiltration bonus. Which is exactly what Gary does. Gary overclocks the dig up dirt. We are now at +12 infiltrating. No, we are actually at +15 infiltrating because of the +3 infiltrating to all players virus. John adds another +2, so we are now at +17. Distracts more encounter cards to Adriana. Nivik does the same thing. This is an all or nothing day. If this doesn't work, they won't have a chance. The bonus is now at +19. Decides to prioritize. Gets a bare minimum work. Probably not something a CEO is going to do. Satoru also overclocks the dig up dirt. We are now at +21. Gary folds to not draw any encounter cards. John finds the overclock as well. Nivik folds to not draw any unnecessary encounter cards. Adriana plays a convincing presentation, possibly some slides explaining why she would make a good CEO. Satoru also folds to not draw any unnecessary encounter cards. John is now going to overclock, and he is overclocking the fake access card printer. We are currently at +26, and Adriana is already at 6, so she is going to get +32 to her roll here. So with her convincing presentation, Adriana sails into the partner room with a voice 36 check. John folds this card. Okay, how high is this going to be? I have not seen a above voice 40 check yet. Adriana has to roll more than -10 And the final roll is a double 6. The final voice check to end this hard run is a voice 44 check. Everyone, I hope you enjoyed this replay. I thought the second day in particular was very well played. That was almost a disaster with the 2 threat 4 cards. And a voice 44 to top this off. This video marks the end of the competition for the 1.00 sealed alpha version of Blockminers, which will be rewarded to this player. If you have beaten the game on hard mode and you haven't told us yet, then please do. This Lincoln 2024 box is for you. Links for how to play this game is in the description. I wish you a great rest of the week, everybody.